Hooah! Hooah! According to Amazon, each of these lamps draws 3.1 amps per light. So together they're going to be 6.2. In a previous video, we tried to figure out how much it would draw and if that would be an issue for what the Harley has. It was going to blow a fuse. It technically shouldn't. I say that just because with all the lights that we had prior, we had the Rogue Rider Moto Illumination headlight. Remember with the exact amperage that it drew on low beam versus high beam. But let's say for high beam it ran 2 amps. We had a small LED pod that we had from Amazon. I think it drew like 1.5. We had 4 Kuriokin 750L driving lights. We had one set of fog, one set of spot. Both of those together, I think they drew 3 to 4, where we were about 7 amps when we had them all on. So we withdrew and we were about 6 because we always ran the low beam on the Rogue Rider light, and our high beam, since the cable had come loose in that side of the headlight, we ran that other one, the pod. We ran the smaller LED pod down below. So all in all, we were in the same amperage, so it shouldn't be an issue. Again, you just never know that maybe they just run a little hot or we end up just blowing a fuse. Who's to say, but we're still gonna run it because best thing to do is just to jump into it. And with that, we'll be ready to ride with the new setup, these new rabbit ears. Just a quick segue, we were interrupting what we were talking about because we also wanted to showcase the new bars that we have. We ended up swapping from our overall about 9 to 10 inch setup where we had the 8-inch pullback risers from Biltwell and we had the Biltwell low bend tracker bars. We are now running the Zombie Performance 4-bend throttle by wire rabbit bars. This is the new look. It is wild. These are adjustable. It does have a center clamp that you can either raise it or lower it depending on what your preference is. And you can also modify the position of the rabbit bars, or if you want them extremely close together, you want them all the way out. You want them all the way out, like similar to a T-bar style, but look freaking amazing. We got it wired up. We have the internal wires. The only thing we end up putting the gauges back into our dash. We used to have them on our handlebars. Had a relocation mount. This is from Drag Specialties that we would put on our risers for the Biltwell riser clamps. We placed it on top, and that's how it would sit somewhere up here. Definitely check into this because it was, man, one of the nicest things I put on my bike that was for convenience. We don't have risers now since we just have riserless rabbit bars. We don't have anywhere to put it, and I didn't want to have something here because it's going to take away from the cleanliness of this. So we went ahead and put the gauges back into our dash, and it cleaned it up so much. We're not running our turn signals. That it's just so different from the performance build that we had to this. Now that we have everything together, it's going to slow down a little bit with the M8 chopper build because now it's going to come down to small fitments where we can fit them. Our first priority is going to be the Sportster tank. We're going to have to mess with the fuel pump a little bit because you do have to modify it if you are not running a Sportster fuel pump. But since we already have a fuel pump from the Fat Bob, it's going to be off of FX FBS, the 2018 M8 Softail Fat Bob. We said, why are we going to waste the money if we already got it? This is from our track setup that we would swap tins when we would hit the track days. In the event of a low side, we would just mess up those tins and not the OEM burgundy. That the footprint is the same. It is going to be an EFI style footprint as the one on the Sportster tank. It should be all the same. That Harley basically still does the same EFI setup, but the only difference is going to be what you have for your fuel pump, the filters, and a couple other variations of it. Now, in this one, we already had to remove the overflow, but that's going to be in a later video where we break it down in the fitment. We're going to have to finagle the mounts a little bit in order to get it to fit properly onto our M8 frame, where this is going to come into play. We picked up a little $200 TIG welder off Amazon. This only does steel, mild steel, stainless steel. It does not do aluminum. It does not come with a modular foot pedal. The foot pedal that comes with is only on or off, and it has an on-off button on the torch itself. So we're going to be messing with that and doing some welding here in the garage so we can tack up some new mounts. We're going to make them chop up the bottom mount, and we're going to be chopping up the bottom mount so that way we can try to get it a good fit versus it floating is how it sits now. And we also have the rear fender, strutless rear fender that we picked off eBay that's going to give it more of a chopper look, hug the tire, a little bit more minimalistic. And once we finish with that, after that, so we're going to try to fabricate a sissy bar that goes from the swing arm mounts up. But that's going to be a little bit more of a tricky one because we're also going to try to fabricate a custom king and queen platform to put on a king and queen seat at some point in time. Again, this is all brand new. This is our first run at this. It's wild. I'm already running into a little bit of issues like trying to visualize how I'm going to mess with the Sportster tank, where I want the tabs, the new mounting tabs, how I want to do it. But again, it's just so exciting to dive into this. And I appreciate everyone who's already chimed in and let us know what they've thought of our direction. A lot of people have said that we're wild for doing so, but there's been a lot of positivity, positive interactions with everyone. Y'all are also just as excited for this. But again, just explore what you want, have fun with it, and that's the important thing. If you're not having fun and smiling, then why are you even riding bikes? And of course, I appreciate all the support. Check out the links below where there are some affiliate links to Amazon, some of the things that you see here. You can purchase them, and by purchasing them through that, we do get a portion of the sales, as well as some of the coupon codes that we flash throughout these videos, where through those coupon codes that you use, they help direct some of that revenue back towards us. It helps us to fund some of these portions of the project. And for that, extremely grateful that the end goal for us, the timeline, is going to be Born Free Texas. That hopefully we can get everything dialed in. In a perfect world, we'll even get it painted. That's if we can fit it in the budget. That's a little bit of a stretch, but hopefully we can. If not, we're just gonna run it raw however we have it, so that way it's just nitty gritty. We have our 2.5 gallon Frisco Sportster tank laying on the table. And here we present fuel pump. Now this is where it's gonna get interesting. There's already an overflow valve deep in there. It's gonna be hard to see, but it's been welded in there. It leads all the way through here, so it's gonna be the overflow right here. So we have no real need for a secondary overflow. And plus, someone said this doesn't fit if you insert this in here. It's like at the top of the tank. Look at this. So if that's inserted here, it's at the very top where it may not work. So I think we are going to have to remove it either way. Okay. So as long as I hold this top piece secured, I think this bottom piece, yeah, it's coming out. We're basically just moving the whole shaft. But I'm not sure if all of that's going to come out because it looks like it's also connected. We're going to find out right now. I was forgetting to release that tab. So now it's a clear hole through, and here is the other portion that sits in there. Basically, that's how it is. We just took it out. And so what we're going to have to do is go to our local hardware store, find a similarly threaded bolt to run inside. We had this off of our FX FBS, which is our spare tins. So now we have to put this back on, the float. I think someone had mentioned in order to run it, they said you had to remove that, but then you also had to remove the float and cut it down. Basically the arm of the float is remove that, cut it down a little bit, and then refit it. Yeah, because I think the float is actually kind of giving it some issues. I wish I could see inside, because it's not, if not, it's going to read. So it is a bit of an issue. So I think we are going to have to trim it. This is sketch, guys. Oh my God. Oh, does that work? Oh, so that's literally all you do. Now we just have to cut it. It's going to give us an inaccurate reading, but it'll fit. It's going to be the M10. Because that just looks too thick, bro. And it won't even fit in there. Yeah, it's not even going to fit in there. Alright, so we're kind of going a little bit of a deeper dive. We said we didn't want to, but then we said F it, let's look at it. We basically pulled off this little casing. Again, this is an M8 Softail fuel pump. We have the float arm that's over here. We can disconnect it if we want to, but we're just going to leave it all connected because we're going to try to just get to these Allen bolts here. Remove all that so we can set the 3/8 bolts by 24 to the fine thread, fit it in there, and make sure that one of these edges is close to this portion of the pump on the other, this back side. So that way it just fits in there. We're going to add some thread sealant and then fit it in there, and then we'll be able to insert it. And that way we're basically closing off to where the overflow reservoir kind of pouring through. So basically what happens is you have this in here like this. Is you would have this plugged in like this. It sits over here, and the way it sits in the tank, it kind of goes near the gas fill, and whenever you have too much gas, this would pour out down through your overflow down into the bike by your rear tire is usually where they point out. But with this one, since it wouldn't fit, we took it out. We're gonna plug it up, hopefully fit that, but we're running into some issues because we can put the bolt in here, but we're not able to manipulate it because it's being obstructed by this wire, one, and then also by the, I'm gonna guess the solenoid for the fuel pump. I'm not sure if that's what that is. That's an educated guess. Removing all these items, I was hoping I wouldn't have to. Oh, first try, dude. Oh, we have is, this is where it's getting obstructed, but we can push it out of the way and thread it in. So we're gonna add some thread sealant all up in these threads so we can drop it in there. But I'm not sure if it has a reaction, like a negative reaction where, like gasoline and plastic, where it deteriorates. So we're gonna put it nonetheless. It's kind of like a additional step that hopefully works. And hopefully we don't have a leak down the line from here. If so, we're gonna have to revisit it. And at that point, we could probably chop this, do a plug weld on both ends and run it like that, so that way it has nowhere to go. So I feel like I don't wanna. So it's butted up right against, again, what we're gonna call the solenoid. It's gonna be hard to focus on here. Come on, buddy. Snug. So now we have that all together. We can put this other piece back on. And basically what you're gonna be doing is just lining up these tabs here. There's that over. So now we have that plugged up. Has thread sealant kind of leaking out. We have the gasket that's on there that's probably crushed. That's why we also realized, and now that we're thinking about it, it's probably also the O-ring, the gasket, that's kind of just squished. So it's a good thing that we didn't go tighter because we probably would have just annihilated it. It probably is messed up now because I just totally remembered about that. So now we're going to try this again with the shorter float, and that fits a lot better. Earlier when we had it a little longer, whenever we push this in, it kind of kicked back out. And now it's sitting a little bit better. And now that we've been able to get the fuel pump situated for the most part, we're not sure. We still won't be sure as to if it's going to read appropriately. It may just show that we're always low on fuel. What we will be doing is, what we'd be interested in knowing is, even though that is reading as if it's low, that if the bike is going to shut off. What's up, guys? So we're out here doing the first ride with the new rabbit ears and the new headlights. We have double stacked headlights. We have rabbit ears from Zombie Performance. These are the 4-bend, and it's so weird, dude. Where it's so different. Like, everything's so close to me. It's hard to see, but we wanted to showcase the lights. I was afraid that they were going to be too bright, in the sense that, like, it was just a giant flood and it wasn't going to have a focus beam in front where it may make it difficult to see at night. Oh, that engine light? Don't worry about that engine light. But it has a nice beam in front that it still allows me to see visibility. We have them kind of pointed down where, from a driver's perspective, it would probably hit your hood, the beam itself. So it's not directly pointing into oncoming traffic, onto oncoming traffic's eye. So that way, you know, if for some reason we get pulled over for having too bright of a headlight, you can kind of see the beams there, where it's angled just like a headlight would, and it's got nice spillage over here to the sides. I will say these rabbit ears feel wild. I think the left one sits out a little bit more to the left than the right one does, but it's not uncomfortable, and it may just be me thinking about it. But this is so awesome that, I mean, it's different. This is an M8 Softail
done in a chopper styling. It's not quite chopper. That if you're a purist, you may not call it a chopper because you know a lot of people say you have to hardtail it. But if you think about it, choppers, you have to chop the frame, and we did shave down the frame. It's not quite chopping it, but let's do a Yui. We have no high beam, so it's probably gonna go dark. Because since we have both headlights and we want them to be on at the same time, we didn't see a need for a high beam. But at some point we may add something down the line, but it may ruin the overall look and aesthetic of what we were trying to achieve. So that may just never happen. Unless we want to run no headlight while we're riding, then we can elude if we ever need to. I mean, the brake light's still gonna work. And then the check engine light is on more than likely because we were unplugging and we had cut wires, we had removed a bunch of stuff, disconnected things, and turned the bike on, so the system's probably reading that there's an issue. I hope, at least. Now we're gonna hang out and take a photo.
Letting you in. Take a look at you and start to lose my balance. What am I falling into? This feels like something new. I've seen a lot of views, but they were nothing like this. The way you do what you do, I think you're something brand new. Everybody spends their life trying to keep on